So this morning, hopefully we captured your minds in terms of the available data, what the evidence suggests. Now I'm hoping our next panellists will capture your hearts with their very special Queensland stories. And let's start with our first one. You know, every year there are 250,000, 250,000 reports of child abuse in Australia. 250,000. It's okay to say that figure, but what does it really mean? And perhaps more importantly, how do you play a part? Trudy Peters is the National Program Manager for NAPCAN, and she's here to tell us how. Trudy, thank you.
Hello. It's very bright up here. Before I start, I'd like to firstly acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that we're meeting today and pay my respect to their elders past and present, and to extend that respect to all Aboriginal people that are here with us this afternoon. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Play Your Part over the next 10 minutes and what we're doing here in Queensland. So Play Your Part is a community approach to preventing child abuse and neglect, and it works with communities to develop and implement locally driven prevention strategies to keep children and young people safe and to build child-friendly communities. Listening to and hearing children and young people, involving them in our program development and prevention strategies is really central to Play Your Part. Play Your Part has three main areas where we work in terms of prevention, and that is community engagement, community education, and giving children and young people a voice. And today I'm just going to briefly focus on the last one, and that is how we work to give children and young people a voice within our programming, and how we've done it in the past and how we're trying to extend on that now today and into the future. Good. Giving children and young people a voice involves recognising their rights to start with. Those rights include the right to be heard, to participate, to reach their full potential, to live well, and most importantly, to be free from harm in their lives. Great. In phase one of Play Your Part, children and young people are encouraged to speak out about things that affected them, what they wanted for themselves and for their communities and their families. In speak-outs held on Russell and Macleay Islands, young people identified issues that affected them and possible solutions to those issues as well. We were able to share this information with local people and local stakeholders like the council to look at solutions that they raised and look at strategies that we could use. Some of these included strategies around transport that had been a long-going issue on the islands, which included us doing training around child abuse and neglect prevention with the ferry operators, with bus people, with looking at different strategies to support them in supporting the young people that they transported every day. Things like introducing simple things like a blue light disco to the islands, where young people could go and have space to be together. And this was supported widely by other people in the community, as well as businesses, police, across the whole spectrum. The biggest thing, I guess, over there was the creation of a skate park, which was massive for the young people on that island. They really identified on both Russell and Macleay that there was nothing for them to do, and this was something they really wanted. And the council really took that on board and really consulted with them widely on how to do that in the best possible way. So this was done as well. These are some of the pictures from different parts of that project. What we learnt along the way, we learnt quite a bit. In 2013, we were lucky enough to partner with the Children and Youth Research Team at QUT, who completed an evaluation of our project on Play Your Part. And one of the things, I guess, there were a few recommendations, but one that really stood out for us as a team was to continue to actively, creatively involve children and young people by speaking with them, listening, and including them at the heart of all prevention strategies that we were putting together. So we really realised as a team that we wanted to do much more in involving them in what we were doing on the ground. At the same time, we were inspired, I guess, by some work by Sharon Bessel as well from the Australian National University, who was spending quite a bit of time researching with children and young people about what they thought about their communities, what they thought about safety, and what they thought needed to happen to make their communities a safe, child-friendly place. So that kind of got us thinking and got us really wanting to do much more in the project that we were working in. So phase 2, which we're into now, we again wanted to ensure that children and young people are at the core of all of our activities, that we're with them, about them and for them. The voices and views of children and young people are now helping to actually shape the Play Your Part program and all of our prevention strategies. And we're doing this in a few different ways. One of them is obviously consultations with children and young people. The other ways involve technology, so using things like iPads to survey children, to use different apps where we work with children, which is a new thing for us, but is working really, really well. From all these sorts of consultations, surveys and information we're gathering, we're then trying to put together prevention strategies that directly come from that information and that data from children and young people. And we're incorporating that into all our programming and all our prevention strategies. And part of that is having children and young people involved across the board and along the way. So we want to have a group of children and young people who can be advising us, looking at what we're doing and making sure we're keeping on track and that we're accountable to them, because that's the most important thing for us. Program development that's guided and informed by children and young people is something that NAPCAN strives to do across all of our programming. One of our programs that's been around for a while now is Love Bites, which is a violence prevention program that works with young people to prevent domestic and family violence and sexual assault in their communities. I just wanted to show you a really quick clip today. It goes for about 2 minutes. And it's one of many music clips that have been developed over the years from the Love Bites program across the country. This particular one is not from Queensland, but it is from New South Wales, a little town called Portland. So I wanted to show that now and see what you think.
Everybody, it's time to revolt, cause sexual assault is never your fault. Love and violence is like pepper and salt. You deserve way more, get a better result.
Don't listen to the myths, nah, keep your wits. Love is respect, don't kiss with your fists.
Don't grab your phone and take pics of your bits.
Love is respect where consent lives.
Are you getting this? Cause no means no. If you get consent, then you're good to go. If you got respect, then you settle, go slow. Don't pressure, don't push, get where you wanna go.
Listen up, everybody, it's time to revolt.
Cause sexual assault
It's never your fault.
Don't listen to the myths,
Nah, keep your wits.
Love is respect, don't kiss with your fist.
So what's the first sign if she's living with abuse? She never goes out, always makes an excuse. Never telling the truth, then she always cries. She's living her life with tears in her eyes.
So what do if you're living in hell? There's no way out, nobody to tell. Stand up for yourself, you can scream and yell. Tell your best mate that you need some help.
Listen up, everybody, it's time to revolt.
Cause sexual assault
It's never your fault.
Don't listen to the myths,
Nah, keep your wits.
Love is respect, don't kiss with your fist.
Where do you go now? What do you do? How do you get someone to help you? To tell the truth, you've got to be strong. Take your story, put it into a song. Take a step back and realise that love comes easy with compromise. Open those eyes, see clear blue skies. No tears, no pain, black eyes, no lies.
Listen up, everybody, it's time to revolt.
Cause sexual assault
It's never your fault.
Don't listen to the myths,
Nah, keep your wits.
Love is respect, don't kiss with your fist.
We've got some great clips like that actually from the program. It's amazing what young people can do in one afternoon with some people that know how to do music and a video camera. So I think it shows that, young people do have a lot to say around these issues, and we often don't spend the time asking them, and we don't often give them the space to really lead their communities in this way. So with Love Bites, we get young people to actually put together those community campaigns and get them out there within their community and lead that, which I think is really great. So how do we, I guess, make sure that what we're doing is inclusive and informed practice and involves young people and children? I guess firstly we actually just need to start the conversation. We need to find that space to speak with them about what's going on for them, and not only what they see as the problems but what they see as the real solutions. We need to push the profile of children and young people to everybody within the community to make sure that they're valued and their opinions are heard. We need to encourage active participation in decision making. A lot of the times we've spoken to young people and children, they'll tell you that they don't feel heard by many people in their lives. Motivate action at local and regional levels. Provide real opportunities for children and young people's voices to be heard. To give them the opportunity to develop skills in different areas where they may not have normally done so. And build knowledge and experience for children and young people, and being able to advocate and being able to get out there in their communities and lead the way. We hope as NAPCAN to continue to find ways to work with children and young people to strengthen all that we do to prevent child abuse and neglect and violence within our communities, and we'll hopefully continue to do that with Play Your Part over the next few years in Queensland. So thank you.
Thanks, Trudy. Trudy, the National Program Manager for NAPCAN. And what a wonderful video. So Deadly Choices is a campaign which aims to empower Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples to make healthy choices for themselves and for their families, to stop smoking, to eat good food, to exercise daily. So how does it work? Kieran Lander is the Healthy Lifestyle Coordinator at the Institute of Urban Indigenous Health. Please make him feel very welcome. Thanks, Kieran.
Thanks for having me. I grabbed a stopwatch just so you don't have to stand up and give me this. Before I start, acknowledge traditional owners across South East Queensland. Why? Because this is where this program was developed, right here in South East Queensland. So I'll pay my respects to those, Jagera, Turrbal and Yagara people, and also my elders down South Australia. I'll pay my respects to them. Thanks for having me. Geez, the crowd's sort of gone now, which is good. Guys, I'll give a quick overview of what the program is and I suppose what it's about. And unfortunately, there's a management meeting today, hence why more of our guys aren't here. The Institute for Urban Indigenous Health started this program with myself and my manager, Ian Lacey, and it is actually driven by community. It was designed by community people, and the brand was in the same context. That's why this is working. This here will show you that we've done some research, we're building evidence, we're doing evaluation, and we are ticking boxes with the community, and the community is saying this as well. If you need to have a look on our Facebook page, if you all pull your phones out, we'll do it together. Like our page, we need a few more likes. It'll show you the impact we're having with the reach to young people, families. Families are actually posting up their workouts. You know, that's amazing. And they're cooking demonstrations. We're teaching them, they're going home and they're showing that. The campaign is all about encouraging Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to live healthy lifestyles, be deadly, and deadly to Aboriginal people or Torres Strait Islander is good. Be positive, be good, and live healthy lifestyles, live longer. This here is some of the activities that we go through, all built under that Deadly Choices umbrella. With the social marketing, you'd have seen our television commercial ads on mainstream TV, but also on YouTube and other outlets. The Healthy Lifestyle Program, which is the main one I'm talking about today, is a 7-week or 7-module built around leadership. The social media, Twitter. Is anyone out of tweet? I still don't. Community Days is all driven by community. Participation, young kids doing exercise, families come along being educated, but also that gathering, which we like to do. We like to do quadri, do shake a leg, do dancing. Our Community Days is all about, you know, coming together, but also getting some output, and that is education and involvement. Sport and recreation, I ran an OzTag day. Well, I didn't run it, my mates did. I just joined in, had a feed. I cooked the barbecue. Sport and recreation, same thing. We were talking about sports up here earlier, and sports drives us. You know, it's that inclusion to be part of something. Talk about mental health. Well, it's good for our mental health. We talk about it as a group while playing sport, being strong mentally, being physically well, eating a healthy lunch. We don't bring sausage sizzle. We'll have steak burgers with heaps of fruit and water. You know, so it's all that quick learning, but it's easy. Cooking programs, we adopted a cooking program off the Jamie Oliver's Ministry of Food. I'll teach 2 of you, you teach another 2, and so forth. It's just bringing back that family connection. How did I learn to cook? Well, as my grandmother. How are our kids learn to cook? Well, it used to be in home ec, but home ec's optional now. How do we get healthy? We don't know how to cook. And smoking cessation. Leadership is a cornerstone of what we're doing. These are the 7 modules we're going through. We work within our schools, we're flexible, we touch on each of these subjects to start our process of thinking about living a healthy lifestyle. Everything's factional. Chronic disease is the same here in Brisbane as it is in remote Northern Territory, as it is in Canada, as it is in China. Tobacco, same thing. We talk about the history. Why do we smoke? Kids say stress. If you're 12 years old and picking up a cigarette because of stress, I'm a bit worried. It's not why we smoke. We try because we're risky. Okay? Nutrition, we stick to the guidelines to living a healthy lifestyle. We stick to those guidelines, we can manage or prevent chronic illness. If we want to lose weight, we do more exercise, play more sports. Harmful substances, physical activity, and primary health care and access to good primary health access here in South East Queensland is great. We had 5 services when I started. Now we have close to 13 services for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and that's amazing. And we're accessing it. That's even better. No use opening a service and no one accesses it. So, you know, that's good numbers there. We educate around why is Medicare important. We need to see a doctor one day. If it's not for sickness, it's to check on how we're going. Doctor says, you're good, your blood pressure's fine, your BSL, see you later, see you in 12 months. That's normal. It's not normal to see a doctor for the first time when you're 45 because you can't see. It's because of diabetes. We're trying to change normality. This here just shows you some evaluation, and Alison took this off me and added it, so it might look a bit dull. We ran a research, and I've got to thank Claire Malseed, who's actually overseas, and she helped put this research together and built it off the back of our program, and it's just strengthened our program, really. You can see the numbers, 65 participants, 1 school acted as a control group, with 14 participants, pre and post questionnaires, all relating to attitudes, self-efficacy, behaviour change. You can't change a lot of behaviours in 7 modules, but what you can do is educate a lot for them to make informed decisions to change behaviours in the long term. And those risk factors as they're headed. I thought I'd throw Zoe. You see these people up on here, they're our ambassadors, and they all have different attributes. And Zoe said to me the other day, what's her strength? She's got a job. That's amazing. She's done a traineeship in primary health care. She's a young girl from Charters Towers, a young Indigenous girl from Charters Towers. And she said, our other ambassadors are sports stars, actors, singers, fitness. What do? She's got a job. That's amazing. So that's her attribute, and she does our cooking stuff. Here, the results show that it improved knowledge, attitudes and behaviours, increased breakfast. You know, there should be a breakfast program in every school in Australia. Why? Because we'll have better educational outcomes. Not because you're getting a feed, because you can concentrate longer. You'll feel better. Okay, the right food. Increased physical activity. Why? Because they knew and understand how to start, where to start, what to do. Increased uptake of health checks, which is one of our main goals as part of the Institute. And this stuff's all been put together again by Claire and Dr. Nelson. And if you want more information, my number's 1-800. No, I'm joking. Have a look on the Daily Choices website, contact the Institute, and someone will point you in the right direction. I think I'm pressing the right button. One of our major ambassadors, If you don't know, Jesse Williams, NFL soon-to-be star. He was injured last year when they run the program. Just another, I suppose, figure that young people can see to, or communities from Cav Road. So it's that positivity. If he can make something of himself, I went to Cav Road, why can't I do something? And that's why we have these guys. This here just shows you, and I'm wrapping up, my 10 minutes is up. A deadly choice is a healthy choice. And I think a deadly choice is any good choice that we make, whether it's employment, education, but all links back to if we don't understand, if we can't be healthy, we can't get a job. We can't get an education. We can't strive for success. Thanks, guys.
Terrific presentation, Kieran, and if I can just get you to join Trudy on stage. You're not going anywhere. But the nods, no, we don't want any humour yet. We'll need it again shortly. But just the nods that went on around the room when you said that one thing about the breakfast programs nationally, and just where I was sitting, everyone was just saying, yeah, great idea. So we look forward to developing that a little bit more shortly. You know, we've had the data party all morning, haven't we, in relation to early childhood education and know where the problems are. What are we going to do about them, though? Dad's Read for Life is about a community response for helping children. We have children who start school with 50 words. They should have 10,000. What a difference. Dan Georgeson is from the State Library of Queensland, and as you will hear, Dad's Read for Life is about addressing some of those needs. Dan, welcome.
Thank you very much. So as I'm the only State Library person speaking today, welcome. I hope you've enjoyed your time here at the State Library, and I would also like to, pay respects to the traditional owners on the land on which we meet, past and present, and well done, Kieran, that was an awesome presentation, and I just felt really inspired. We also have Kurul Dargan here on site, which is a dedicated space for Indigenous culture and learning. So check it out on the way down on level 1. That's my ad, if you have time. So yeah, that's a true story. We do have children who are 4 and 5 years old starting school with 50 words. Imagine what that's like for that child. Imagine what it's like when Australian Standard English is a requirement in Year 1 and you've only got 50 words, and at the end of term 1, at the beginning of term 2, week 1, you're required to write a sentence in Australian English, and you might only be able to write your name. It's incredible. So they self-assess. So what do you think that child's self-assessment is going to be? Yeah. I just wanted to plug libraries. The reason why is because my team runs a service here, an early childhood service for 0 to 8, and I'm glad to hear the 0 to 8 theme today. I'm glad to hear the evidence-based and research-based drive. It's just wonderful. Libraries, there's more libraries in Queensland than Maccas. Do you know that? No. And there's more attendance at libraries, at public libraries, than Maccas. So, like Maccas, we play a very important role in the lives of Queenslanders. and the thing to remember is that, I guess in terms of touch points, remember that libraries contribute across the whole lifelong learning cycle. So people go to libraries from birth to death. So it's a long engagement process. There's a lot of activity in libraries, but like in long daycare centres and early childhood centres, there's a long way to go in terms of our knowledge of understanding of what we do with whom and for what purpose. 53,000 hours of programming last year is a phenomenal amount of activity. So baby bounce, baby play, play groups, all sorts of services that they partner up with to deliver. It's at a local government level, so we often talk federal and state, but don't forget public libraries and community services delivered at a local government level are often under-acknowledged and misunderstood. So we thought we'd have a crack at a collaborative, linked-up program in a local government setting in regional Queensland to pilot, and we've been working with lots of people, including our friends, the Deep people here, the C&K network and others that are here, and the local governments, as well as BHP, Billiton, Mitsui Coal, who were really interested in the program. We were influenced by Better Beginnings in WA, who have a great program that they've been running for a number of years. So I'll just quickly go through what that is. Again, so my service, just so you know, the corner that runs down here 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 120,000 people through that a year. There's lots of communities of interest, and it's just a microcosm of what happens out in the regions in public libraries every day. So it's really a huge network that's underutilised. So our role is to support capacity building in the public library network. It's a partnership. So there's some of our partners, including ALIA, the Australian Literacy Educators Association, who said that 0 to 3 years space that a couple of people have mentioned here today is an area that needs a lot of work. And Central Queensland University evaluated the program. So again, another attempt at an external evaluation, which is a good thing to do. So the objectives were to collaborate across government, non-government in response to the AEDI data, to build a community of awareness and interest, as well as a community of practice around these issues, and to strengthen community culture and resources. So we thought we'd have a crack at putting it into practice. These are some of the strategies. We had some funding, so we delivered a range of strategies, and I'm just going to focus on 2 of them today, the Dad's Read and the language to literacy work that we did, because we discovered one of the touch points is when the parent exit the maternity service they've used, they get a little personal health record book. Everyone gets one of those. You might know, you might have had one yourself. And in it is their records of all the data around their child and their baby. This book is their instruction manual on how to look after their baby. It's written in really small black print, so don't forget 50% of Queenslanders aren't able to read medicine bottles and understand them, so how is that going to work for a new mother? If they don't go to the postnatal class, what happens then? So they may be involved in a playgroup, but maybe not. So often the children who fall between the gaps are picked up by speech pathologists if they attend a kindy, and if not, if they're one of those children that start school with 50 to 500 words, the speech pathologists in the schools report that it's way too late to do much about it. So they may catch up, and they may be able to put mitigating kind of programs or responsive programs in place for that, but it's often way too late, and the teachers really struggle to give those children the attention that they need. So I'm really rabbiting on about 0 to 5-year-olds, and particularly the language, literacy and cognitive domain, although how can you separate them out at that age, 0 to 3? I thought I invented this model, but I found out it's not true at all, that everyone's doing it. It's just the way it is. But you've got to work together. You've got to work with your marketing comms people. When we started talking to local government, we found out that the library staff often didn't know who the comms staff were in local government. We found out that the state reps who were having their interagency meetings weren't including the local government reps. So they weren't talking to each other. So we've done this cycle in a year with all of those strategies, including an external evaluation, and we work with the early childhood educators, the health contacts and the library staff, as well as lots of people from the community in education and community services like yourselves. We set up a community steering group. I think that was another touch point. Get people together in whatever place or way works. You've got to get people together to have that conversation. And it's not always easy because sometimes there is that initial resistance and competition, but you can get through that. Everybody has an interest in children, but I'm going to be really honest with you, they also have a lot of interests in other things. So, you know, it's like, let's spend, in the areas we were working in Mackay and Isaac, some of the fastest growing areas in Australia, also some of the highest disposable incomes in Australia. I heard stories from high school students where the parents were giving them $500 for the weekend and then leaving town and leaving the kid at home to spend that money. That's a true story. So often parents need to have that support and need that information. They often don't have the information about their role.
G'day, Shane Webke here. As a dad, you expect that when your kids grow up, they'll have no problem reading a newspaper or following a recipe. As a parent, they'll get this from you. Unfortunately, nearly a third of Queensland kids are starting school at a disadvantage. It's never too early to start reading together. Just 10 minutes a day is an investment in your child's future. Whether it's a fairy tale, a sports page, or something more meaty, it all counts. And if you can't find something to read at home, you'll have no trouble at your local library.
So that was an ad. Shane's one of our Dad's Read ambassadors. It's really important to... Am I getting to that close already? So we had some local ambassadors. There's John and Brady. They're local blokes who wanted to become ambassadors. They said the program has changed their family life because they didn't know it was important to read to their daughters, who were around 3 years old, every day. And when they found out about the data and the dilemma, they took active roles in the program and became ambassadors. And you can see there some of the community events that went on. We had lots of positive feedback from parents about the reading packs. And we delivered some really amazing workplace, training with ALIA. And some of the feedback was incredible. We were told that they wouldn't show up on a Saturday because of the reasons that were articulated earlier, underpaid and overworked. But they did because we gave them a great lunch, gave them lots of resources, and they did feel like they were part of a community of practice and they were being acknowledged. And one person even said that they didn't leave at lunchtime because they were so interested. Jay Lagaya came up and got involved, which was fantastic. We had 5,000 people through his events, and he had all the dads doing heads, shoulders, knees and toes. So it was really good. Oh, and I just want to make a point that have a look at around you in the audience and look at the male to female ratio here. We've got to get male role models, not necessarily just dads, involved. I know it's not, it doesn't have a universal appeal necessarily, Dad's Read, but we found in regions it was really well embraced because if a dad gets involved where he's not involved or where a dad doesn't understand it's his role to read to his child every night, you've automatically doubled the scaffolding around that child when the dad gets involved. And they want to be involved, they just didn't know it was their job. Kids don't see their fathers reading at home.
I'm going to have to pull you up there, Dan, I think. Are you nearly finished?
Just in terms of wisdom, I like that. I think I've missed that slide, but yeah, the wisdom bits. Take time to do the community consultation and work with people and for people. Get your local ambassadors and your local buzz going using local comm strategies. And there's a lot of need for regional early literacy training. Oral language and the pre-literacy steps that children need to and parents need to be involved in are not well understood. That was another learning we had. And social media and formal networks were critical. So we had a lot of media that we generated from the program. And then if you want to find out more, please go to those places. And just to finish up, you can find the report for Read for Life there, which has got all the data in it. Just to give you an example of what we're going to do this year, we're going to do the same thing again, except this year we're going to go to the people who write this and find out, can we put something in there about how important it is to go to your local library, meet the other mothers and bubs in the town, work with your local playgroups and other organisations like Let's Read, but something in there about the importance of talking and playing with children, because we found, even though some parents are reading to their children, they're reading to their children. The children are saying nothing. And then the children are actually just playing on devices the rest of the time. So they're not developing oral language.
Thank you,
It's a
Dan.
gap.
Please put your hands together for Dan George. And I actually heard someone at lunchtime say that they take their children to McDonald's once a year and to the library once a week. And Dan's just reinforced how important that is. I said earlier that the thing that tore me apart in doing the research for today was just the number of kids who went to school each day anxious, worried, feeling sick about something. What and how can that be at the age of 5, you ask? Well, Gary Montgomery is the principal of St Mark's Catholic Primary School, and he's here to tell us that kids matter. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you very much, and nice to be here. It's taken me away from signing my name 500 times for report cards at this time of the year, so I'm pleased to be here. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners, past and present, of the land and extend my respect to them. St Mark's Catholic Primary School is the school at Anala. As I said, a little over 500 children there. There are 2 elephants that we say stand in the corner of every classroom there. One, we are a low SES school, and secondly, we are a very high ESL school. Put those together and they have to have an influence on each and everything that goes on. We had a survey done around about 2010 called Clowning Around by Griffith University to find out that, yes, about a quarter of our children were worried about something. The stereotypes that you hear about Anala seem to come through to us. They were worried about who was in the community. They were worried about things happening at home. They were worried about other kids in other classrooms and what might happen to them. So there was a need to do something. Child safety lessons was a good start. These sorts of themes came through and resonated with them. It was an eye-opener for lots of our teachers. I'm pressing buttons, nothing's happening. Here we go. I have left as we are going into a fairly developed program to answer and address a lot of these concerns. We looked at all sorts of ways that we could get some structure about what it was that we're trying to do. And after a fair bit of research, came across Kids Matter. Not so much a program, but a framework. There are lots of good things we think happening at St Mark's, but we wanted a structure that would put it all together. And it's broken up into these 4 components, as you can see there. We work awfully hard, as I've heard lots of speakers here say, on building up community. And in a school, we know it's very rich, it's very intricate, it's very messy, it's very challenging, it's very fulfilling, it's very satisfying, it's all those sorts of things and more. Each one who comes, we see them in the dignity of God, and we look to see exactly who they are and how they present. And then we do our part to join with parents to educate them. Being a low SES and high ESL school, we attract a good deal of funding, which is always very helpful. But we say if we're going to try and bring them to the table, and getting them to the table is half the battle, we then have to make sure that they are also comfortable and feeling safe there. I marvelled at 50 words. I have children who come to my school who have no words. The story of an ESL student says it takes them about 2 years to get conversational English. Another further journey of about 7 to 9 years to get academic English. So our little part of the journey, from when they start in prep through to when they leave us grade 7, sometimes we'll see them with a fairly basic rudimentary understanding of language and how it works. So 50, I'm looking forward to that. No text without context, they say. So we went then and said, okay, if we're going to have these children coming into our school and we want to be able to educate them, all the research says that your best chances of learning have to take place within the setting of being and feeling safe. So, as most people say, what's my number one job? As a principal of a school, my number one job is to make sure my children are safe. First and foremost, before anything else happens, they have to not only be safe, they have to feel safe. That's my number one job. So we put these sorts of things in place. Building the positive community. Nikki Lysart there is my APRE, Assistant Principal, Religious Education. Nothing happens in a Catholic school without that frame. For all that is best about a Catholic school, we set that as our frame and go from there. Again, I'm pressing buttons here. Coming on. This is who we are in our school. So at St Mark's, with about 510 children, about 55% are Vietnamese. A good number are Pacific Islanders, mainly Samoan. Our Caucasians, around about 10%, so to the Africans. Indigenous is our fastest growing group. When I started as principal there, 2008, I think we had about half a dozen. These days we've got about 20 of them. Simply because of what we've done with community and trying to acknowledge and appreciate and celebrate who we are, they've been prepared to say, I am Indigenous. And that has allowed us also to be lots of other things. We celebrate, as I said, all of those unique gifts which are us. And Harmony Week is one of those things that we do. So from what we wear, to what we eat, to how we pass on our story, how we draw, share our ideas, through to having fun together, being in community. There's someone there dancing around. I do apologise for my forehead. I obviously didn't wear my hat quite well enough when I was younger, and paying the price these days, but that's the thing for all Queenslanders. Very much part of the faith tradition. We look for and celebrate all that we are, and that's probably a pretty good idea of who we are at St Mark's. Excelling in education is one of the themes that came through Catholic Education Week, which comes around about July most years. A couple of years ago, it was all on heart, mind and spirit. Look at the camera, please. Random acts of kindness. We have a virtues program. Virtues are taught. How do we treat each other? Under what terms do I meet each other? I am important, I know that. Is everybody else as important as you are? If not, why not? Why are you thinking that? So random acts of kindness is one of those things which we have hit upon. We even had an Indigenous treasure hunt. They were looking for boomerangs. We live next door to Natangalui, which of course is for the Catholic Education Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander Education Centre. It means to teach. Our random acts of kindness, well, we had our great wall of kindness. For the mind, we went to a breakfast club. Yes, we ticked the box. We do have a breakfast club, and we provide a very simple meal. Exactly for the same reasons we heard before. Without food in their stomach, ability to concentrate and go to work and have a good day at school, it's much diminished. The Spirit, we gather at least 4 times a year to recognise and celebrate who we are, the people of God and people who live in community. I'm pressing buttons. Here we go. So again, you can see this was from a couple of years ago, Education Week, so it's all about celebrating community. So we try to make sure that we're aware of where we fit in the rich fabric of our community. So looking out to extend ourselves to those. People sometimes say to me, Catholic school, is that because you teach religion? No, you'll find a religion taught in every school. Now, we only teach one religion, that's Catholicism, but the distinctive factor for Catholic school is that we are a worshipping community, just in case someone ever asks you. And so to be authentic in what we do, that's very much what it is. Our Random Acts of Kindness Day. Gardening, yes. It's a great touchstone and a great leveller. You've got to be able to get your hands dirty, get your fingers in the mud. Open Day, we are looking all the time to be able to engage our community, come to school. We think we're on 2 winners. In our Vietnamese community, it goes God, education, family. With our Samoans, it goes God, family, community. Family there. School, rather. So that's 3/4 of our school. So as a Catholic school, we're off to a great start every time. We like to think we can walk our talk. So again, we are currently having our St Vincent de Paul winter appeal. We get out there and we visit the elderly. We make those connections with community. That's who we are, all about 500 of us. Within the Kids Matter context, it's developing now into the next couple of components. As you saw earlier, there are 4 main components, and if I can read it, the social emotional learning for students is important, and that's where we're heading to. Currently today, as I left school, our year 6s and 7s were starting to look at who they were. We based ourselves on those 5 virtues. Marcus is our mascot, and our behaviour learning, our behaviour teaching is centred around those. Our Students of the Week are awarded because of their demonstrations and living out of their virtues. We use kimochi dolls, Japanese for feelings. Again, we find with a lot of our ESL children, they just simply don't have the language to explain how they're feeling. So using something like this gives them language. Bad, good, you've got to get past that. It doesn't always give all the story. So there is a couple of the other ones of the framework, which is Kids Matter. So we very proudly call ourselves a Kids Matter school. It's that framework that allows us to be all that we need to be, to give us a shape to be able to make contact and to become that very important part of the life as expressed by those who come to our school. That's how kids are faring at St Mark's. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And just in their faces and the activities, you can just see how much kids matter there, Gary. Thank you. A wonderful presentation. I love this website called Best Life, and perhaps many of you have seen it too. If you haven't, you should. It's bright, with children bearing smiles that could light up a room, and with the headline, "Every kid deserves the fun of a sleepover." And they sure do, don't they? To tell us a story behind that, President and co-founder Kath Corey. Kath, thank you.
Thanks very much, Madonna. Thanks also to Wesley Mission Brisbane for inviting Best Life to share our story with you today, particularly because they've walked alongside us to help us get to this point today. And I'd like to start really with the kids themselves, because that's what Best Life is all about, and I think it's an appropriate place to start. So we'll do that by showing a little video, if the technology is with me.
Every child needs a friend or two. Every child loves a sleepover where they get the chance to stay up late, to be a kid, to laugh and play and mess around. Build a cubby house out of sheets and pillows, share treats, watch movies, tell stories in a happy place. So imagine if your child could do none of these things. No time with friends, no innocent hours of fun and silliness, no sleepovers. For many kids with special needs, this is the reality. Every moment of every day, they're reliant on their families or in structured formal care. Best Life has created an amazing chance for kids with special needs to just be kids, with a sleepover program with professional support, activities that are entertaining, challenging and fun, and the chance to play with other children. For the kids, it's a joy. For the parents, it's a godsend. The rare bliss of a little time for themselves without guilt, without worry, knowing their child is safe, supported and happy. For these kids, ordinary activities like sleepovers need extraordinary support. It's expensive, but so important that we do it right. Best Life is making it happen, and with your help, it can happen for more children more often. Your help can make such a difference. You'll give deeply deserving families a much-needed break, and give kids with special needs opportunities that should be open to every child.
Thanks. I think that video is a good place to start because it shows clearly why our services are so desperately needed, but it also shows what a very special impact something as simple as a sleepover can have for our children and for their whole families. So that is Best Life so far. That's our first initiative, where 5 children gather each weekend with highly skilled and Best Life trained team buddies to have fun, to learn a thing or two and to be independent and, very importantly, to spend time away from mum and dad. And often when I play that video of our children for groups, you know, you see the reactions around the room, and I'm always struck by the obvious empathy in the room. And I guess I shouldn't really be surprised because we all have children in our lives, either our own children or nieces, nephews or grandchildren. And I guess if we think for a moment about those children in our lives and ask ourselves what is it that we want for them, I'm not sure exactly what each of you might be thinking, but I can say that often when I ask this question, most people just say, you know, I just want them to be happy, or I want them to have a good life, I want what's best for them. And these are really typical hopes and dreams for our children, and they're very universal. And it's these hopes and dreams that have driven the establishment of Best Life. It's been established by families for families and built from the ground up from family need. And it's really just about creating ordinary experiences and making them accessible and available to children with special needs. And I wanted to share a couple of stories with you. And, oops, am I going? Yeah, keep going. That's why we exist, those beautiful children. I wanted to share a few stories. Firstly, this family, this is a pic of Lara, and she's quite beautiful, but she's my daughter, so I'm a bit biased. She's 13, very joyful, has a smile that can light up a room, loves swimming, music, food and people, and I have to say she's a party girl. However, she also needs support to do many, many things: have a bath, get dressed, eat her meals, organise herself, play games and communicate. And Lara, like most of her friends, is very keen to hang out with her friends, to be with each other. But the options are very rare. And like all of us, Lara and her friends, they really have a right to participate in their own life, a right not to be isolated at home with mum and dad, a right to places to live, places to go, and people to be with. It's very hard for our children with special needs to do this if there's no options out there. And it was the absolute lack of options, I guess, and the neglect to some extent of families in Australia living with disability that came into really sharp focus for our family about 4 years ago. I became ill and I wasn't able to properly care for Lara. I'm all good now, as you can see. But I was undergoing tests and we were facing very much an unknown future. And at the time, it was, to say the least, challenging. And as you can imagine, in those situations, you start to wonder, what if I deteriorate? What if I don't get better? What would happen to my child? Not only who would look after her, but what quality of life would she have? What would be her community? So I decided to make some calls, and I thought there'll be something out there for Lara to be involved in. I thought there'll be skilled people, there'll be services, places she can go on the weekend, things she can do. So I called around lots of departments, state, local, federal, lots of service providers all over Brisbane to find pretty much nothing. I heard comments like, no, there are no weekend or afternoon programs or activities for you that we can offer your child. No, we have no short-term sleepovers or respite experiences. So Tina Graham, the co-founder of Best Life, and I decided we should just test how widespread this need was. You know, was it just us or were there other families out there that really needed this type of service? So we surveyed a couple of special schools on the south side of Brisbane. And overwhelmingly the response was, yes, we do need these types of services. And we estimate the demand just on the southeast side of Brisbane alone would be in excess of 100 families that would use a simple sleepover service. And they don't want, anything extraordinary. They just want quality support, fun activities, sports, music, just a chance for their children to hang out together and to be cared for and well supported. And I guess Tina and I were really inspired by this quote. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And so Best Life was born. What we feel is a new model for families, regular short breaks based on the needs of the child and the family, not crisis-driven services, rather crisis prevention services. As one parent said, this is a completely new type of respite. My child is learning and having fun, and I can send her there guilt-free. I can even sleep through the night. So families really do perceive Best Life as a new and different alternative. There's one more story I wanted to share with you, and that's of this lovely boy, Paris. Paris is 13. He enjoys singing, computers, trampolines, hide and seek, and iPad. He's quite typical of a 13-year-old boy. He doesn't like being away from his mum, though. In fact, he's never slept away from home, and he can get a little anxious sometimes. He doesn't like change that much. You see, Paris is on the autistic spectrum. And in 13 years, his mum and dad have never had a night away. Everyone at Best Life was really keen for Paris to join us. We talked to his mum about taking it in stages, and that, success for Paris might just be staying for dinner or maybe staying till 9 o'clock. Well, Paris stayed for dinner on his first sleepover, and then he watched a little TV with his mates, and at about 8:30 he got up off the couch and he took himself to bed. Our lovely and very skilled team leader, Stephen, just observed, waited, and then after about 20 minutes he went into Paris's room and he said, "How's it going, mate?" And Paris said, "Fine, thanks." And I don't know if you know any children on the autistic spectrum, but in true style, he said, "I'm going to sleep now. If you could just leave, shut the door, thanks very much." So our team leader did what he was told, and he didn't see Paris until breakfast. Paris has slept over successfully at every sleepover since then. In fact, he's now doing the occasional sleepover at his grandparents' house, and I've just heard that his parents are considering sleepovers with friends, something that hadn't been possible for Paris in the past. So it's kind of life-changing for that family. Why has Best Life been so successful for Paris? The program was built by families for families. It's tailored to his needs and to that of his family. We do an extensive matching process. We interview the children and the families. We match the children with other children who have similar interests that Paris, some of them he may even have known. We made sure that we had things that interested him. Our team leader texted his parents every hour or so to let them know how he was going, and sent photos that evening of what fun they were all having during the day. So I guess the bottom line was he was understood and he was respected. And it's this child-centred approach, I think, that enabled Paris to have that great time with friends and enabled his mum and dad to have that much-needed break. But there's something much more exciting happening here. It's a glimpse of independence that creates a sense of possibility for Paris and his family, the possibility of a future that they hadn't really dared to imagine. And as one parent put it, she said, "The fact that there might be something out there that could help my child live independently and he'd actually enjoy life, that he doesn't need us totally scaffolding in everything for him all the time. The fact that that's a possibility, that's now seems real to us, is just fantastically positive." So that's an anecdotal experience, but we have done our research, and we've been very fortunate to have Griffith University do a qualitative analysis of Best Life's pilot at the end of 2013. And it's found some really great findings. We've just been blown away because the pilot was only 3 months, which means that each child only went 3 times. So the first point that you can see there is very much that envisaging a positive future, which we've talked about with Paris. The second one is participating in childhood experiences. So, just being a kid, having a fun, kicking a ball. And, we know that the kids are really loving it. We have a little boy, Elijah, who every time it's his turn for a sleepover, he's in the car, packed and ready to go an hour beforehand. We have a little girl, Ellie. She's always packing Tuesday and Wednesday for her Saturday night sleepover. She's organised. And Eleanor's our master chef. She loves to cook and she likes to be in charge, a little bit bossy perhaps, but she just looks forward to cooking for everybody and planning those meals. So they're really participating with each other, and it leads on to the next point. These points are very interconnected, and that's what the research has found, that creating independence, it's about skill development. So one mum said, you know, after my daughter has had her sleepover, her independence improves. She wants to help with cooking and cleaning, which is good and bad, can get a bit messy. But it's a little bit more than that as well. Another young boy, his mum said, you know, he organises his bag, he goes through it, makes sure he's got all the stuff that he needs. But she said it's that sense that he's really happy when he gets there and he's independent and he's like, you know, bye, see ya, off you go. You know, see you, mum, I'm here, this is my place. So just that sense, like neurotypical children have the chance to create that sense of separation gradually over time by having regular sleepovers with their mates. This is a chance for kids with special needs to do that, to have their own space. And it's very, very important that these experiences are repeated. For kids with special needs, it takes a lot of repetition for them to feel comfortable. The fourth and really important one, excuse me, is developing friendships. So we're really talking about community here. One mum said she can have her own network of friends that can be fostered and built over time so that she can be away from us. I think being out of the home isn't being out of the family. She's got very strong social needs, and I think it really meets those needs very well. And I think the other idea in this community component, one friend of mine, Kate, reminded me it takes a village to raise a child, which I think has been said here today. And we see Best Life, to some extent, as their village in the making. The fifth point was providing a unique form of respite, and this one we're really blown away by because this was part of our major vision, was to really meet the needs of the child and thereby meet the needs of the family. And one mother put it really eloquently. She said, I didn't have the feeling of crap. What's going to happen to my child? What's going to go wrong while they're at respite? And unfortunately, that's a very real feeling for a lot of families. Sorry, I'm nearly finished. For us, because, another quote, for us, because she is so happy there, we can then breathe, and it's like I can actually sleep through the night. We can go away for 24 hours to the beach. We can get up in the morning and go for a walk along the beach and just be normal, do things that other families take for granted. It's a real luxury for us. So there's a couple of other things. I won't go through them now, but we have done evaluation, and the families, as well as the qualitative research, 100% would use the service again. 100% said it exceeded their expectations. The quality of our service they see as being exceptional, and we've put a lot of effort into training staff and making a very good quality service. And 85% said they'd use it, that it's better than other services that they've used. And we've also surveyed staff, and we're thrilled to see that they are living the vision and delivering the vision, as most of them strongly agreed that decisions are always made with the children at the heart, and they're very satisfied with their jobs. So I guess I'd just like to say I hope that sort of demonstrates that Best Life does have the potential to make a real difference in the lives of our children, and organisations that are built from the ground up by the people that need them can really do that for people in need. And we're very excited to see where Best Life takes our children next. Sorry for going over time.
Thank you, Kath. Indeed, what a wonderful, happy tale. And I think I could have listened to you all day, Kath. And I think our two daughters do an afternoon activity together. And you're right, Lara just walks in and actually lights up the room with that smile. So now can I invite to the podium two other people? We all know Dr. Jeff Woolcock. Thank you, Jeff. And Kylie Lang, who is the editor of Q Weekend. Could you please make Jeff and Kylie welcome as well? This next half an hour is open to you to ask any questions you like, to make commentary, but I would like to now throw it over to Jeff to start this panel discussion and see where it goes, if that's okay, Jeff?
Thanks, Madonna. Is that working? Yeah. I really just wanted to be a bit of a segue between what we've just heard and what we hopefully can spend for the rest of the time we've got, which was to say that in organising this symposium, both the hardest but the most rewarding part of organising this was that the section you've just had, because there, as already been indicated, there were a lot of really terrific stories to draw on and enduring stories in this state. And you've heard a selection today. We tried to cover lots of different, I guess, aspects of children and young people's lives in the little vignette stories that you've heard. But I did also want to say one area that and I've certainly been interested in this area for a long time, but as have many other people, that has a big impact on children's lives, as we know, is the built and physical environment, and that has had its form mostly in this country in the form of a conversation around building child-friendly cities, building child-friendly communities. Trudy mentioned it as part of the NAPCAN approach. It was really one of the drivers behind the establishment of the Logan Child Friendly Community Consortium, which itself was a group created by the Communities for Children funded program in Logan. And I can't tell the really micro version, in terms of cutting to the chase right now, a lot of what you've heard today about the same principles of collaboration and working together is happening in the form of Logan Together. There's a prospectus, and it's genuinely called a prospectus out there in the foyer that talks about it. It's in its early days, but if people want to say, yeah, but how do you actually get it happening and starting, I can assure people it's very much starting and embedded almost in Logan as an initiative, Logan Together, bringing together lots of these things we've spoken about today. So I did want to make mention of that.
Okay, I want to go to your questions now, but first of all, I'm going to ask the first one while someone's feeling brave enough to ask, and that's to Kylie. Kylie, I feel a little bit ashamed that of the 5 stories we've just heard, I'd only heard of one of those organisations before doing my preparation. I hadn't heard of Best Life, for example. Now I want to know everything about it. You know, in the media, how do people, like we've just heard, get their good story across, engage the public in understanding the challenge they have, and I guess in helping out?
At Q Weekend, I mean, we do pride ourselves on doing local stories. We don't do a lot of celebrity reports because our readers don't like it. They want real stories about real Queenslanders. And I can tell you they'll be following up on almost all of you for a story.
And that's a great point you make there. So elaborate on that. You were sitting there, you were taking furious notes. What about these stories captured your heart or your interest?
Well, as a parent myself, I mean, I found myself almost in tears at everybody who was speaking about all the great work that you're doing, and even the things that you talk about with your own kids and the children that you deal with. They're problems that are across the community, whether it's Indigenous community or kids at private schools. For the whole range of our children are desperately in need. And I write a column also in the Sunday Mail, and the new editor, I write about a lot of things. I've done politics, I've interviewed Ross before, and I write a whole different range of things, but he said to me, "Oh no, I think you're doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing, all that mothering stuff that you write about." And I was like, I didn't realise I was a mothering columnist, but there you go. So the things that I am passionate about, and he lets me write about what I want, is kids and teachers, early childhood education. I'm passionate about the role that teachers and educators play, and I think they are chronically underpaid for the work that they do, and I think it's an undervalued resource, and we need to start, as Brian said this morning, it is about that collaboration and getting that message across in different ways. So you might have a really great initiative that might warrant an academic report and it'll be written in a certain way, but you can also get some messages across through 140 characters on Twitter. So I think it's about targeting who it is that, what message you're trying to get across, targeting who it is that you want to reach, and then working with that person, whether it's a journalist or someone in your public relations team, to develop that strong message.
Okay, let's go to our first question. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks. It's Jane Holden from World Vision Australia. Thank you for all your stories, they're amazing. Given that we're a room of practitioners and people clearly feeling passionate about this issue, I was just wondering if one or more of you might be able to share about what keeps you resilient in this space.
Yeah, Gary, we'll go to you first there, because presumably you could go and lead a school in any area. You've chosen a particular area, a particular cohort. What's the passion that drives you doing that?
I think for anybody who's in leadership in a school, it's the realisation that as an individual you have the distinct opportunity to make a real difference in the lives of kids. And I think that's the thing that stirs most leaders to really put their heart and their soul into their work. As I say, days go awfully fast in a classroom if you love it, and if you don't, you die with every second.
Yeah.
And so, those who are loving the job, that's what they do, and it is that that ability to be able to make a difference, to make, as I say, to make one child's life a little better. That's a good definition of success.
And just elaborate on that success in terms, I presume NAPLAN isn't the top of your list. That thing that makes you go home going, yes, I made a difference. I really helped change a person's life today. What is it?
Yes, I'm one of those principals who does not get overly fired up with NAPLAN. It just doesn't quite come onto my radar at all. As I mentioned, we have children who arrive with just about no language. We know where we're going to be come the year 3 testing. We have certainly got the approaches and the programs in place. We are very much hands-on. It's very much language-based. We think our successes are fabulous, and they are, but to get them up to the sort of standard that you look across the wider community, that's a different story.
And Trudy, what's the passion that drives you to get up each day and love your job?
I think it's the opportunities that you have to spend with children and young people, and when you see something like that music clip happen, or those sorts of things, it's pretty inspiring. I mean, I know sometimes when we run something like Love Bites, you'll be in a school all day talking about domestic and family violence and sexual assault, which are fairly heavy issues. But I remember a day like being at a school at the end of the day, doing music and art, and us finishing up with the whole student group, cheering and clapping, and you're like, wow, we're here to talk about sexual assault and domestic violence. That's quite unusual. So those sorts of days, I think, make you really keep going with it all.
Kieran?
Easy for me. It's quite easy. I'm Aboriginal. So I'm very proud of culture, and my job ain't to go to work 8 to 5, it's 24 hours. So it's I wake up with a smile, and I enjoy going to work. And growing up, and as we call it, disadvantage, but I own my own house. I've got a car with the latest phone. So
and good on you.
I don't think I'm disadvantaged. So for me, it's just everyone else can do that too, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's what you're showing and proving. Thank you. Our next question, ma'am. Can you just speak up? Yeah. Push it up.
I just wanted to make a comment about people not telling their stories. I work with a lot of communities, and I work with a lot of people who do very good things, and they never tell anybody what they do. And sometimes it's because they don't know how to write it, sometimes because they don't know where to put it. And in reflecting on the multiple conversations I've had with people in many places, I've also thought that I have an opportunity to write some stories. And so recently I went to a course with Catherine Devaney, who's a writer in Melbourne, who's a little bit provocative and a little bit difficult. But the reason I went there was because I work in government now, and I work in organisations, and every story that I write just sounds so terribly boring, and yet the people I talk to and the people whose stories I hear, they bring me to tears, and they really I feel inspired. And I suppose sometimes you just need a little bit of help to do that. And so I suppose there's many of you there who may want to write some stories. Sometimes you need a little bit of a help to get the trick. You need to get it out there and get it happening in a place where someone will read it, and you can build momentum and perhaps help others who have stories to tell as well. And perhaps someone would like to make a comment about that.
Yeah.
I can comment to that.
Yes, Dan?
Because I think when you're a practitioner, so I can go back to that previous one as well, because I'm a Gemini. You do feel sense.
You're still under a time limit.
You do have a feeling of overwhelm when you're exposed to data and you work in social services. I moved from running youth justice conferencing at Logan and Ipswich to libraries to be involved in an earlier intervention, because I came across so many family meetings where speech pathologists were sitting there with children who couldn't understand what people were saying to them, and families couldn't understand what they were saying to them. I think the hope, or the thing that keeps you going, is a very personal thing. And I think that people like Anne Devison, an amazing Australian woman, wrote a book about it called Resilience. And I think it is a very personal story. We all have a story our whole lives and our whole language is involved and entwined and entangled in different stories, and making meaning, not just having a life, but having a meaningful life, a significant life. And I think what I learnt with Read for Life was when you meet in a community reference group setting, or you're having a meeting, and you know, like people like me who have been involved in social services are sort of sometimes a bit naive, you know, in terms of programming, because we think, oh, we've done this amazing program, and then the comms person says, so have you got it on Facebook? And then, or you know, the other person says, well, let's write a story about it. Yeah. So I think you can't do everything, and I think you do need to work together so that all the parts that you need are enabled at the same time and in the same place. So we had a lot of activity happening, but then we needed the media stories to get the key messages across. But then again, there's this other dilemma where I read yesterday in the paper that all these anti-smoking campaigns that have had an incredible amount of money put into them supposedly aren't working. Yeah. Supposedly the same amount of people are smoking, but the effect has been that they're just buying cheaper cigarettes. So it's really interesting.
Okay, so just you've raised something else in my mind. All of you have been involved in programs that are actually really successful. But there must have been times where you made decisions that weren't successful. Has anyone got something that they tried and it didn't work? They'd be honest enough to tell us, look, you know, that we went down this track, that didn't work, so we turned and this is what worked? Anyone on our panel? Come on, it can't have all been perfect first. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think, you know, you have loads of times where you try things and they might not work the way you want, or you know, you continue to learn and grow as you do programming like this, and especially with prevention. It's changing all the time. So I think being open about that and being able to learn from that and to continue to look at what you need to change is the way to go.
Well, let me flip that. Did you want to answer that, Gary?
I suppose I'm just struggling with the referencing of it. We're fairly big into what we call collaborative leadership, which is, again, you know, you said programs, and we're working awfully hard, I suppose, to get away from programs and simply looking at approaches. Yeah. What's going to be our approach to, not the program? The approach gives you that latitude to be able to look at what your particular needs are and to be able to adapt them. And in a collaborative leadership model, you have a very nice goal in mind, and you say, okay, how can I, using the resources I have around me, how can I bring all of those into effect to be able to move ourselves forward to get somewhere close to where we want to be? So it's a bit different from having a program which says, yes, it was successful, it was not. Yes. Here are our needs, here's our approach. With all that we've got on the table, without knowing of any blueprint, any way it's going to develop, what can we make? How can we advance our cause? How do we all do a little better with it?
Can I ask you that same question, Kath, in sense of when you sat down and you didn't know where to go, it was just you and I think another mum, and thought, well, will this work? What made you go down this avenue? And did you try other avenues first, or did you just nail it on day one?
I think we were guided by the children and the families, and they were our inspiration, and there was just such an overwhelming gap in the market for these families. Just to live a life with a bit of equity. You know.
Was the first sleepover pretty scary?
It was for me. I think the kids were fine. But yeah, look, it was several years in the planning. And, you know, then we were fortunate enough to win Campaign for Change, which was Wesley Missions Initiative. And that enabled the pilot. So those weeks leading up to the pilot were pretty exciting.
You know, how all of you have explained it is how, in a macro sense, Brian has explained things today, isn't it, Brian, in terms of getting the evidence of what's needed. And then you said that was several years in the planning how the method that you implement that, and then you review it and you have it evaluated until it works, you know. And I'm just wondering what you're thinking, sitting here from Penn University, our expert today. You've listened to these 5 little stories from our city. What are you thinking?
Well, I think I'll turn around so people can see me. I'm struck by the importance of that kind of careful planning and partnering with universities in developing strategies. One thing that there hasn't been any mention of today that I feel an ethical responsibility to bring up is that there are things that have been developed with the very best of intentions that have turned out to be not just ineffective but harmful. And so, you know, in the medical profession, there's the Hippocratic oath to first do no harm. And so I think that we have to be careful to go into the work that we do. Sometimes our passion needs restraint to recognize that we could, even with the best of intentions, make people worse unintentionally. So it really does require this kind of thoughtful planning, connecting up with researchers who really understand the fundamental mechanisms of the things that we're trying to prevent or make better, and to do that good homework.
Has anyone else got a question from the audience? No? Okay. Has everyone here got business cards? Can I get you to all hand your business card to Carly Lang? So that's your first. And everyone here that's got a business card, can you just pull it out? And I want you just to hand it to someone in the room that you don't know. We've talked about collaboration. We've talked about networking. If anyone could... It's not for drinks on Friday night. It's for collaboration and working. And go on, get them out and give your number to Carly. There's no need to do it with so much noise. And as you do that, can you please put your hands together for our panel this afternoon? Thank you. Now, just before you go, and I know we're running over time, but I just want to just listen for 1 minute, if that's okay. You know, all day I've been trying to think of what is the word that sums up today. And to me, it's hope. Hope. And it's only a little word, but it means so much, doesn't it? It can mean a future, an education, good health, a sense of well-being. And today gives me an enormous amount of hope. Yes, things can be so much better in terms of education and health and juvenile crime and everything else we've talked about today. But we shouldn't leave here in any way despondent, I don't think. But we can't leave it to our governments either. We've heard constantly, well, we need the political will, and we do. But if we wait for that, it may not happen. They can't meet all the needs of young people in any case. And if I've learnt something today, it's this. The big issues facing young people, young Australians, cannot be improved by one magic program, one policy, or one of your organisations. It's about all of us, you and Kylie and me in the media, working together with a central aim. And as a mother and as a parent, I love the idea that we're striving to move Australia from the middle of the developed countries for child and youth wellbeing to the top of the OECD countries. And as Brian told us this afternoon, there's an economic imperative to do that, although I'd never put that at the top of the list. But healthy children mean a healthy economy, and it was said at the Nest launch, reducing Australia's child vulnerability from 22% to 15% would lead to an increase in Australia's GDP of 7.35% in less than 60 years. We've got to win that prevention is better than cure argument too, don't we? So let me ask you this question. What does it mean when each of us walks out of this room this afternoon? What role do each of us play? What will be our individual and our communal commitment? The things we can do differently, the networks we can engage in, the idea that has been bubbling around in your head today. That suggestion box is out in the registration desk, and I'd really love if you didn't just walk past it. If you just pull out a piece of paper now, can I get you to do that? Go on, open your bags, pull out a piece of paper. Take 1 minute. And just write something down. It might be one sentence, it might be feedback. The MC was crap, if you can't think of anything else. But just write something. You know, is it the organisation that you would like to deal more closely with? Is it an idea for Aracy? If we do this next year, how should it be different? What's one thing that you think might improve the well-being of our children? All right, so I'll leave it there, but I'd love you to put those in the registration, the box on the registration desk as you go. I'd like to thank also very much for today Aracy, the State Library of Queensland, Children's Health Queensland, Griffith University and the Logan Child Friendly Community Consortium, our sponsors and our hosts. As I said at the start of the day, this is a first. There's never been a symposium like this, and we aim for it not to be the last, and look forward to working with you with our one goal, to improve the lot of our children and our youth. A safe trip home.